In our previous video, I promised you that today's episode would feature some epic camp spots. And what I found was maybe just a little slice of heaven. After spending the night at the lakefront cottage in the last episode, generously offered to Lexi and I from one of our Star Expedition members, we found ourselves again back on the road and promptly back off the road. Brian, our leader of the Timmins trip, graciously shared some Gaia trail routes with us the other day, and we were headed out on one of them now. This particular one showed evidence of some trail maintenance in spots, with some crushed stone laid down. And generally, off-road and on, this part of the province does a really good job with road infrastructure. In other spots, well, the resident beavers were doing their best to shape the landscape to their needs. When you travel by overland like I do, you're always looking for the next stopover spot, somewhere to set up for the night. And if you're lucky, somewhere nice enough to spend a couple of nights. And it just so happened, I almost drove past this one, which ended up being a boat launch, but also with a fire pit in the center. It would probably do for a stay, but ideally, it wasn't that private. But for now, it would do for a stop and a stretch and, well, to let Lexi have a pee break. It just so happened as we were strolling back to the Bronco, something caught my eye off to the side. Wouldn't you know it, tucked up and off to the side of the boat launch, a small little alcove of a camp spot, half hidden from the trail. Well, it goes to show, you just never know. With Lexi helping spot the pasture side, I line up the Bronco and level it up on a split log, right beside the lake. Wow, I like this. A built fire pit, prep tables, and probably the best repurposing of an old seatless patio chair planted off nearby in the woods. Within the first 5 minutes of arriving, we got a small sprinkle, but it was short-lived and the afternoon sun eventually broke out for us and we got busy getting ourselves situated. This convenient added workspace gave me the extra room to get caught up on some of the YouTube work while I tooled around the camp. With the rain clouds drifting off into the distance, I finally had time to take a seat and soak it all in. After all, this is what it's really all about when you're looking to get away. And this is exactly the kind of spot you hope to find after a day's travel, complete with firewood graciously left behind by the previous campers. Unfortunately, the other night, I ended up leaving my hatchet behind at the cottage woodpile, so it was a bit of a struggle maintaining the fire with the large split logs. Just before the sun went down, everything went completely still. The lake went glass smooth, like a perfect mirror. Lexi, still a bit timid at campfires, decided she'd rather spend the time before bed resting in the comfort of the Bronco instead. As the sun finally set, the real magic of this spot revealed itself, with the majestic loons and their haunting calls echoing out over the lake. The following morning, we awoke to another beautiful, sunny day. A little chilly overnight, as the dew in the tent would attest, but that would quickly burn off. I managed to pull in a CBC Radio 1 channel on the Bofang handset, and we had Tom Power keep us company while I got breakfast started.
About the journey of an actor, and there's a line in the final chapter you say, I love it. Like, after all these years...
Lexi already having a late breakfast and was enjoying her normal mid-morning nap, but naturally keeping an eye out for those potential leftovers or plate lickings.
You get so used to hearing Tom Selleck's voice come out of his mouth on screen, but it's so...
Our musical accompaniment from last night was also out looking for their breakfast. Or rather, should I say lunch? Where does the time go? So now that the bar is open, the refreshing beverage for today, a pint of Loch Ness Lager. For all the anglers out there looking to land their very own lake monster. With the better part of the day spent relaxing, as it should be, it was now time to start thinking about dinner. On tonight's menu, Middle Eastern spiced chicken, roasted sweet potato with tomato almond rice and a creamy garlic lemon sauce. Oh my god, that was delicious. A little more work than Danish hot dogs, I think, but totally worth it. These late summer, late afternoon vacation days are the ones that stay with us. Beautiful, long days like this with nowhere to be and nothing to do. Lexi certainly was soaking it all in, but for a couple of angry jays, it was the perfect end of the day. Tonight I decided to stay up late with the camera and see if I could capture some astro shots, and well, here's what I got. Simply a magical night, like every night is when you're in such a beautiful spot in the middle of nowhere. The following morning had us packing up and on the road again towards another of Brian's excellent trails. We eventually came along an offshoot beside a lake, so we naturally stopped to investigate. This one was on a steep bank and pretty tore up. There was evidence someone had stayed down here in the past, but it was definitely not an ideal spot for parking the Bronco on. I dropped a pin on Gaia anyway. You never know, you just might be down here again, caught late out in the afternoon, looking for somewhere to spend the night. The trail eventually dropped us back out onto the highway, and again, we made our way over to Highway 28. Definitely a road I want to come back to in the autumn, among many of the others in the area. However, for today, it was on to Griffith, to top up the Bronco, the closest town for refueling. I guess with us being this far into the journey, maybe I should give you, my viewers, a bit of a reference to where all this traveling is taking place. From Toronto, the biggest city in Canada, just a short few hours drive puts you in the heart of this beautiful countryside, centered around the Bancroft area. Today, we're headed east for some refueling and resupplying, stopping off first in Griffith, Ontario. Griffith, Ontario is situated beside the Madawaska River, and the Overlanding app shows a Crownland spot just up the road from the gas station. With the better part of the day spent trail riding, we decided to go check it out. A nice area with 3 spots, however the only one beside the river was already occupied, so we pulled into a shady spot in amongst the spindly pines. This was just going to be a quick one-nighter, and with a bit of overnight showers, it actually ended up being a pretty miserable, humid, and uncomfortable sleep. With us now a little low on some food, and most of the clothes I packed worn and dirty, we mapped out a drive east to Renfrew. Just one stop at the strip mall gave us basically everything we needed to resupply. I Google searched for a local laundromat, and on the way, swung by downtown to hit up the local Subway for some lunch. While the laundry dried, it was a perfect opportunity to go for a stroll with the dog. Renfrew is known for a few things, but for me, it's known for the birthplace of the National Hockey League. Way back in 1909, we had the National Hockey Association. Promoters of the league wanted to attract more francophone fans to the game, and so the Montreal Canadiens were born. Belleville-born Jean-Baptiste Lavolée was hired as the playing manager and captain of the new team, and he promptly signed a forward called Newsy Lalonde. Not long after, he recruited his friend Didier Cannonball Petrie from the Renfrew Creamery Kings on defense. These three core players became known as the Flying Frenchmen and eventually led the Canadiens to their first Stanley Cup championship in 1916. Lavolée retired from hockey in 1918. Lalonde was traded to the Saskatchewan Crescents in 1922, but all three were eventually inducted to the Hockey Hall of Fame for their part in establishing a legendary hockey franchise in Montreal. So back on the highway, now heading west, we once again stopped off in Griffith to top up the tank before going in search of our next trail. And once again, back up Scenic 28 towards Bancroft region before eventually hitting our turnoff. The trail started out like they usually do, pretty well maintained, wide and relatively smooth, but before long, narrowing down to a rougher, less traveled tube track. The woods here definitely had a different feel to them, more savanna-like than the prominent evergreens in the region. We were actually on a lookout for a spot Brian had suggested, and before long, we came upon a clearing with a huge boulder marking the entrance. I parked the Bronco and grabbed Lexi so we could stroll in and check it out, and what we found was, well, pure gold. Wide open and airy, a big beautiful lake on what would eventually become our front porch, and this natural rock spine pathway leading to a perfect sunset viewing area. And we had it all to ourselves. I didn't want to waste any time in getting situated and set up and enjoy yet another perfect end of the day. The next morning, Lexi could barely wait to get the day started, and honestly, neither could I. We enjoyed a beautiful sunset last night again, and today, yet another perfect morning. The cloudless sky also offered a much needed break from the humidity. Of course, first things first, and as soon as Lexi's boots hit the ground, we're off on our morning walk. You know, Lexi has her morning ritual, and of course I do as well. A nice hot coffee on a crisp summer morning beside a beautiful lake. How can it get any better? But of course, the whole day isn't just coffee and sunsets, unfortunately. After 2 splendid nights here, we planned on the following day being a travel day. And I often like to pack up all unnecessary stuff the day before just to keep it efficient. This also frees up time to spend on more important things like doing absolutely nothing and letting nature wash over all my senses.